everyone, to the Coaching to Flourish podcast. And I'm your host, Raj Anderson, executive life coach and coach assessor. And I'm here with John Andrew Williams, who's the founder of Coach Training EDU. How's it going, John? How are you?
Good. Yeah, we're doing great. One of my college buddies is coming into town in about 3 hours. So really excited.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
And we're in fall now, like we're in it. And I was just curious, what is fall teaching you?
What is fall teaching me? I've had a really good botanical summer, like where I added some grapes in the backyard, and I'm just really feeling like this year, I probably worked harder this year than any other year of my life. And I feel like reflecting on that, I feel pretty psyched about where things are at. Yeah, just lots of gratitude and gratefulness I'm feeling in the moment.
Absolutely. Gratitude. And I'm thinking about fall and kind of transitions and change. And we don't get a lot of that in Florida. We don't see, the colors of the leaves change that much yet. I do like fall and thinking about kind of just celebrating, looking at what we've achieved and, what this next chapter could look like. I do have some questions around kind of partnerships and creating chapters and this very important piece around designing an alliance in coaching. And I know you and I have talked about designing an alliance before, yet these are questions that we often get sent in around what does it mean to create an alliance? What is the best approach to create an alliance? So I wanted to ask you a few questions, John, and also for us to share and explore a little bit about the importance of designing an alliance. So we know that designing alliance is this foundational piece of a coaching relationship and partnership. It is about those agreements, and those agreements in that relationship and partnership could be on logistics. It could be the focus of the coaching session. It could be the tone of a coaching session. What would you add in terms of what designing an alliance means?
Yeah, well, I think even the concept of designing an alliance itself is sometimes revolutionary to a relationship. And the idea of designing an alliance is being able to speak very specifically about what requests you have of the other person. And like how like and it's not necessarily how to avoid negative things. It's more around this is like if we could communicate like this would be my absolute ideal, best ever. This is amazing. Like that's the whole premise of designing alliance is to it's design. Like how can we work together in the best possible way? And so a lot of design alliance might be very specific or detailed oriented, where you could say to a partner, for instance, in the morning, this is what I need in the morning time. Like this is what I would love to have in the morning time, and that it could be discussion. And you can really design a way that you can work together in ways that really work for both people. I think a lot of times when people are assuming, oh, we're talking about our relationship, it's because there's something that is wrong or not working well or needs to be fixed. But from a coaching perspective, a designed alliance is a positive. It's a way to make sure that you are communicating and doing everything that you can so that things work out, even optimally. So it's a complete different mindset shift, I think, from when people are looking at the way that they're talking about their relationships. It's a tool. It's a mindset. It's a lot of what we do.
So I'm hearing you almost, you're talking about an alliance even outside of a coaching relationship. And we're going to talk about why it's so important within a coaching relationship, especially for new coaches to get used to that approach. But I'm hearing you use it as a tool or talk about it outside of coaching. So how how else do you use it in your life? I know you've mentioned your kids before as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. My daughter was saying something to me about a coach or someone she was working with. And I asked her, well, have you designed the alliance around it yet? Like, or you can design, you could ask your coach for a design the alliance moment and they will know what that means. And so we talked about what specifically she was even going to ask for. And I've been working with this developer and I love working with him. I love the way he thinks. And sometimes, we'll be looking at something and he'll ask me, okay, John, just define the problem. Okay, well, this is the problem. And then it's amazing how uh, when he does that, we're then able to get to a different solution because of it. And I feel like it's a little bit like designing lines where it's all right, like define the problem, but also define optimal. Define if we work really well together, what does that look like? So it's almost like define the vision, define the dream, define the yeah, define it. It's amazing when you start to have to define things and put words to what might be amorphic.
Some people can find this uncomfortable though. There could be discomfort in having these kinds of conversations or perhaps not used to adding this in this way as part
Mhm.
of the service. So in this one-on-one way, if I think about um, what a new client would get from me if they're on a one-on-one, they would get a coaching agreement, they have an intake form. The first session was looking at designing the alliance. And then, of course, I am always using that on a much larger scale when I'm working with organizations. Yet I've heard sometimes there can be some discomfort in having this type of conversation in a coaching session, or how do I transition from this designing the alliance into actual coaching?
Right.
What is your experience on that?
Well, I know you've heard this too, Raj, where do coaches coach? They sound so formal to me sometimes, like so formal. And even the kinds of questions where, okay, do I have permission to ask you about this? I think a lot of times new coaches will use asking permission as a tool, but they overuse it to add formality to their session. The more experienced a coach, I think the more informal I hear the coaching, or it seems like the more smooth it just feels. So if I were a new coach in Design the Alliance, asking permission, all of these tools, I'd ask myself, what's the smoothest, most effective way I can do this? What makes it feel like it's just a natural conversation that I'm having, but I'm still touching on all the bases? I started working with a new coach myself, and he is so smooth. It just I mean, and sometimes it's just, we need to do a design the alliance around this, or let's talk specifically about how we want to work together. Define good, define great, define mind blowing awesome. And so when you're doing these things, it can really be that straightforward. I wouldn't overthink it. I wouldn't try to make it feel like has to be fancy. I would I would try to just make it stream. I would make it simple over fancy. Is what I'm is what, but it still needs to be present, and it's really useful tool, an avenue to ask a coach or to a client. Say, you know what, we can design these sessions so they exactly fit what you're looking for. That's a really cool thing.
I love what you're saying there, John. Just because this is an agreement, it doesn't mean that it has to come across as very formal or very stiff. It can be conversational, it can be approachable, and clear. There's clarity in this, isn't there? Because at the end of the day, the designing lines, yes, it's an agreement. You're creating a framework of how you're going to work together, but it's also about maximizing that coaching experience for the individual. So it's stepping into their world. You gave us a couple of examples and asking them, what, what do you want this partnership to look like? See, you're still staying in curious coach mode while you're designing an alliance.
Yeah, it can range from the very transactional to the very relational. Like like even with, let's say my 7-year-old, sometimes he'll tap me like I don't be tapped, but he needs attention. So we design when you say excuse me, I will give him attention. So it's a little bit of a this is what I need, and this is my current pathway of getting it. But let's design a new pathway of getting what you need. And it's not personal. It's not like because we're doing this that somehow things aren't working or something. Okay, it's like, no, it's just a way for clear communication to happen. And when you do it once or twice, you can, as coaches, you can you even asking clients, do you want me to ask questions that are more pointed or hard questions? Or do you want me to have, you know, um, like more cheering you on and more positive praise, even if it feels like it's mediocre, or, you know, how do you want to design how I can react to certain things you bring up as a client? Those are, I mean, from a client standpoint, sometimes even just asking that question is mind bending for people because they sometimes think, well, then are you being authentic? Are you, how are you showing up? Or, I mean, I even thought about even us as an organization, when someone brings something creative to the table, and there are obvious flaws or mistakes in it, what if we just designed as an organization that the initial response is, "Yay, you did like, yay, you put effort into this." Like let's first celebrate the effort. Let's celebrate uh, the idea. And then we can always pick it apart or, say what things are going to be better. But even then in designing feedback, you can say, okay, in designing feedback, I'm going to give feedback as a suggestion of this is what you can do better in the future. So you can design like literally everything on a coaching session, from how do you even want to answer the phone, to how do you want to be communicated with an email afterwards, to what kind of questions do you want to ask, like very specific pointed questions or more general open-ended questions at the beginning. You can design everything. And when this, especially if that avenue of communication is open, you can get very specific and effective and efficient. And once you have those things established, they're beautiful. It's like this relationship it's like a curated design relationship. It's amazing.
A created designed relationship. You can design anything and everything in that space.
Hmm.
It also allows then in that space, you have a few examples of being able to clarify expectations and perhaps set boundaries for both parties. Because if you are asking that question, what happens in between sessions? Like my clients know that we have a portal. Now and again, they can send a question. Yeah, accountability check-in always happens at the beginning of the coaching session and I didn't used to be very good with setting boundaries. And yes, we want to be there to support and empower. Yeah, we don't want to create dependency in a coaching relationship either. So it's really good to be able to have those conversations up front and look at those expectations and parameters as well.
Hmm. Absolutely.
What do you think is the impact of missing out designing an alliance for a coach?
I think a lot of coaches, myself included, when I am coaching, or especially in the beginning, I didn't know how well my clients liked it. And sometimes I got better at determining it later on, like the power of a session. But I remember those very first few sessions, especially for the first year, it's a year and a half. There were some painful sessions. There were some sessions where I really, really was value hunting and trying to value uh, we're like value validate. Like, this session is so amazing because you made this decision and we figured this out. And this is what we figured out was way more worth like the amount you're paying me and the time we're spending here. So that means I'm valid. I'm good. I've got my sense of worth. So I think if you're anytime as a coach entering into a conversation with the client so you feel like you can validate your worth and make you feel worthy, that's a slippery slope. If instead you're asking questions to ask the client and are truly curious, how can you get the most out of this time together? What are your ideas for the way you want to be interacted with so that you feel the most support, that you feel like you're gaining the most opportunity you can for insight, that you are going to be held accountable? What are the best ways I can hold you accountable? If you're asking as a coach for the sake of your client and for the sake of the strength of the relationship, then you're on 100% solid territory. You will feel the difference. And a lot of times I hear new coaches do design the alliance. There's a little bit of, oh, I'm doing this tool, I'm making sure it's good. Like, that kind of sense. That's all. I mean, I don't know any way around that learning. I did it too. I was there. And the big turning point for me happened when I did my work and trusted myself, trusted the process, trusted the profession, trusted my client, and then got really super curious about what is it going to be for my client that my client really needs. It's amazing. You start doing that with people in your life transforms. Like, I'll even do it with little ones. So, okay, what do you like? You might say some interesting things, but it's usually coming from a place of they have an idea of how they can have a need met. That's a really valuable idea. You want to hear it. So that's the perspective I would take on this. And I would not skip it.
So in coaching, it is for us as coaches about shifting it from ourselves and our desire or fears of not adding value, and then continuing elsewhere in life in terms of how you partner with someone. Because I think when I'm partnering with friends or family, or I'm asking these questions even of my husband, it is that back and forth alliance and partnership in terms of what is it that you're looking for from this vacation? This is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. I'm a bit of an introvert, want some quiet time. How do we meet in the middle? Yeah, it was thinking about the coaching relationship and coaching partnership. As an assessor, often when I'm talking to coaches, what I hear is when the designing alliance has perhaps been missed, or there's some questions that could have been included in it, is when the coach is struggling to use direct communication or bottom line, or you can hear from the coachee's perspective, they're a little bit uncertain of the way the questions are being asked, or even the use of pause. So I often ask coaches the question, did you talk about direct communication or challenging questions or bottom lining or how the individual like to be held accountable? No. And that's why I wasn't sure how I was going to do it in the session.
There was one client I was working with. It's a long time ago, but one of my first student clients. And we were coaching in a greenhouse at a school. It was a lovely spot. It was connected to the science room and it's surrounded by plants. And there was this big clock that had a second hand. And I designed with him that I would ask him a question and I would allow him 30 seconds to think about the answer. And he absolutely loved it. It was, to me, no, I don't. 30 seconds to an answer, my brain it just goes so fast. I can't, no, that won't work for me. But I remember sitting there and I'd ask him a question. I look at I look at the clock and then, do the halfway point and just, quickly just get whatever it was and then wait for 30 seconds. It was amazing. And it took us a couple sessions to design this and a lot of trust, a lot of, like, because I was just wondering, is it, where are you at? But I could feel him thinking and I know, and then he would come up with whatever he needed to come up with. And he just needed that time. And I get really curious about it. I said, well, okay, so when you're in that space, what's happening in 30 seconds? And he says, well, I'm in there and I'm thinking, well, it could go there, could go here, could go here, but no, this is it. That's there. And then he, it, and then he'll say the thing. And then what he said to me was the most amazing things. He said, there's no other space in my life where people give me this amount of time to really, truly think about what I really, really want to say. And he got faster at it. And I didn't need to wait for 30 seconds every time. It was like, maybe a brief period of time that we did this. But then he started going faster and faster with it. And I think what happened was, I think he realized that he could start to learn to trust himself, that given the 30 seconds, whatever he would say at 30 seconds was pretty similar to what he would say maybe at 10 seconds. So he learned by himself to trust his initial thoughts. Amazing. How, how and with what would he have gotten there if not through a coaching session, given that 30-second time frame? I mean, probably would have matured, probably would have, happened sometime in college. He, of course, go that direction. But I mean, we're talking maybe, like a 15-year-old given this time and space. It was remarkable. So I think this is what you can offer as a coach, clients, really to try out designed ways of communicating that they don't even have this in any other aspect of their life. Do they have access to this kind of work? It's really important work that we're doing. And this to me is design alliance at its best.
And that's just a beautiful example as well, isn't it? How different we are and how unique we are. And the designing the alliance approach, it lends itself to really be able to tailor and customize something to where that individual's at or what they might need in that moment or from coaching as a whole. And as I was listening to you, made me think about my own relationship with my coach. I have a couple of coaches when I'm working on spiritual things as well. And I have myself given my coach the permission. I said, I want you to call me out. The things that other people are not necessarily telling me. I would love this space for you to really hold up that mirror to me, to give me those prickly questions. Don't worry about being nice. I want you to go for it. Because that's what's going to help me grow to the next level versus, and I've joked about this in my own sessions before. I'm like, part of the coaching process is for me to challenge you or to hold the mirror up or to call you out. Unless, of course, you want to pay me for telling you how great you are. We can do that too if that's part of the alliance. But how would you like me to challenge you? What would you like that to look like? And for me, that's been really important in my own coaching, to say to my coach, I give you permission to go for it, challenge my blind spots.
Yeah, I remember once I was working with a client. She asked me to do that and to go for it. She actually asked me, like, I want you to be as sharp and prickly and hard as you possibly can. You know, and so I did, and we recorded it. And I said something to her about, said something quickly, and then I used the recording in another call. Like, hey, here's an example of what this might look like.
I remember.
Other people listening to the coaching said, "No way, that is." And she decided to drop the class because it just was no, that was over the line. But it's the idea of that's what the client wanted. That's what the client designed, actually asked for. Give me the prickliest questions, the hardest stuff you can bring. And I thought about it. I've thought about this a lot. because a person dropped me. Wow, how? What did that wasn't the intention. The intention was just to show this is the range of how you can design these things. It's not for everybody to coach everyone like that. And I wouldn't coach, not even close. But it made me realize how different you can be as a coach with different clients and still be your authentic self. And it can look in wildly different ways. Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. I don't share that recording anymore. I'm like, okay, we're gonna pick this one off the shelf. That's going into the archive. Not to be shared anymore. Anyone? All right.
Well, I never had time, John. I remember that. So I think the takeaway here, though, isn't it, is around continue to be curious, ask those questions, don't skip the Design the Alliance. Ask in that alliance in terms of how your coachee wants that relationship partnership to look. And we know that we design alliance at the beginning of a coaching relationship, yet you can revisit it. It might even show up within a session, or you might be revisiting it in the middle of a coaching program. Often when I'm coming towards the end and someone's like, oh, I want to continue coaching, we will revisit the Design the Alliance just to see, well, what worked well, what didn't work so well, what would you like more of, what might you like less of, those kinds of things as well. Any tips you would add, John, before we close out?
No, I mean, I know that beginning coaches and beginning clients, I don't recommend doing a Design the Alliance until you're maybe a couple sessions in. Because oftentimes if you ask for a Design Alliance too early, or just the very, very beginning, neither you nor the client has enough context or experience to know what that means. And so I think a lot of times new coaches will say, oh, I asked the Design Alliance right from the beginning. Check, we've done that checkbox. Like, we've gone on from this. But it kind of misses the point, because things will come up. Your clients will have ideas they like, don't like, around session 3 or 4. So I think it's useful to ask around session 3 or 4. Like, okay, we've done a couple sessions now. What's working? What's not working? And then even to explain the idea of what a Design Alliance is, that it's something that this is something that we're doing this so that we can go towards an extremely powerful experience for you. Not like we're doing this so that, like, I don't break things, or you know what I mean? So I don't so things don't need to be fixed. I think just the awareness of why you're even doing the Design Alliance and the frame that you even put it in makes a difference in the experience.
Great. Thank you, John. Well, grateful for you as always, and grateful for our listeners, and we look forward to connecting with everyone next time.